Greetings, everybody, and welcome once more to the Dracovin Empire. Are you ready to dive back in time and learn some more history of the Magic the Gathering series? Another product, another release, some more cards, and some more information. I'm going to be your guide through time and space, back to, of course, 2012. Kansas Naravan Dracovin. I'm going to teach you all about what happened there, show you some great cards. Hopefully, you'll see if you want to use any of these in any of your decks nowadays, or at least understand where some of these mechanics and stuff came from. If you want to take my hand, I can open up the time portal back to 2012, and we can learn all about today's set, Avacyn Restored. Last one in the Innistrad Block, the original one. Let's get going. Time portal awaits. But before we go, please do remember to give me a little bit of subscription over on the YouTube side of thing, and let me know if you've played anything with Avacyn Restored, whether a reprint of it or the original back in the day. Time portal awaits. Let's go back in time. We've arrived back to 2012. And of course, the exact date is May 4th, 2012, with our 58th expansion to Magic Gathering, the final set in the Innistrad Block. My language has been bad lately. The final set in the Innistrad Block, Avacyn Restored. This, of course, was a very unusual set at the time. We do see these occasionally, and we've seen them occasionally up till now, but it was a large expansion. It had 244 cards. Most of the time, the expansions were relatively small. I mean, if we look at Dark Ascension, which was a more Dark Ascension, man, I'm not saying these things correctly at all today. It was 158 cards, which is a much more standard size for an expansion. This was 244 cards. 101 commons, 60 uncommons, 53 rares, 15 mythic rares, and 15 basic lands. Hey, it had basic lands again. As per usual, at this point in time in the release of Magic Gathering stuffs, there was a premium insert, aka a foil card of every card in the set. The symbol here was supposed to represent Avacyn's symbol. Hey, it's her collar, it's a symbol of her church. The lead designer, of course, was Brian Tinsman, the lead developer was David Humphreys, and the art director was Jeremy Jarvis. We continue our exploration of Innistrad, with major themes being things like angels versus demons in this set, flickering loners with keywords of Miracle Stonebound and Undying once again, returning, with the developer codename of Roll for Shake, Rattle, and Roll, and expansion code of AVR. So, we're back in Innistrad. We're finishing up the storyline of this first Innistrad block, but this is a very interesting set because it's mechanically and thematically very different. This is a reboot of the Innistrad block, a reboot of everything going on. The graveyard focus that was kind of in a lot of the other sets is being shifted away from. So things like Flashback and the double-face cards are gone. Neither of those mechanics that have been very popular and throughout the last two sets are there. And this limited format here was almost considered to be a standalone set. It's its own thing. It's built not necessarily in the limited format to be encased and connected with the others. It's meant to kind of be on its own. Very interesting. The 15 basic lands that were used in there used the same artists that worked on the artwork of the previous basic lands. And in this case, they are similar landscapes that they have, but brighter tones. It was reflecting a change from gloom and despair to hope. That's the entire thing. So it's an interesting thing to see that, like, the basic lands are using the same artists and are kind of like keeping a theme throughout them. So now humanity has turned the tide against the monsters. And of course, we have here our human of my representation of here, the Champion of Lambert, whose power is less, creatures with power less than it can't block it, and whenever a creature enters, it gets bigger. So hey, you know, it gets harder and harder to block. But yes, now, when we saw basically kind of lack of humans in Dark Ascension, we're seeing humans being a major group now. Again, basically with this kind of kindred tribal themes that have been throughout it, we see it continuing. And Avacyn Restores basically emphasizes humans, angels, and their mortal enemies, demons. We see humans returning to a lot of the other colors, being in more red and blue, not just green, white. You know, they're more colored centric, and white being still the most dense human side of things, but we also see the advent of angels, like the Emancipation Angel here. who enters the battlefield, return target permanent to its owner's hand. So angels are getting in there, and of course angels are in white mostly, but we'll talk about it. But we do see the continuation of black being the monsters and evil as its primary colors, even though we do see monsters in the various other colors still. So those monsters aren't gone, there's just less of them. And black is, of course, now we're getting these demons popping out. In the storyline with angels and demons kind of being freed to roam the place again, they're kind of rebalancing themselves, with the Demon Lord of Ashmuth here being a entering the battlefield, you have to exile it unless you sacrifice a creature, and it's a 5/4 Undying for 4 mana. So again, like, you have to sacrifice a creature when it enters, but it comes back a second time. Kind of a little nice little bonus there for that one. The other interesting thing is we do have a new type of card frame that shows up here with the cards that are the miracle cards. As you can see here, the card frame is just a little bit different. It's got this kind of explodingness to it. Revenge of the Hunted here being the miracle card that normally costs 6 mana to give a target creature +6/+6 trample, and basically the lore ability that all creatures have to block it. But for a miracle, it only costs 1 mana. We'll talk about how miracle works a little later on. But yeah, you can see it's got this kind of new frame, new kind of way of showing it. It identifies the miracle cards a little easier. So when you draw one and you activate the miracle, you can see it a little bit more. And it radiates this lines out between from the art and the name box. And the name box is a little like arrow around it too. We also had 2 new planeswalkers introduced here. The first, of course, being Tamio the Moon Sage, a moonfolk from Kamigawa. Her first card here in her first showing is ticking up 1 to tap a permanent, doesn't untap the next turn, ticking down 2, draw a card for each tap creature target player's control, and ticking down 8 to get an emblem that you get no maximum hand size. And whenever you put a card in from your graveyard from anywhere, you return it to your hand. So she kind of got a very powerful emblem. Hey, no maximum hand size, and cards that goes to your graveyard just go back in your hand. Kind of gross. On the other end, the other planeswalker that were introduced one native to Innistrad, Tibalt, a human devil planeswalker, basically kind of half human, half devil, who at the time was the cheapest converted mana cost planeswalker that was released. 2 mana, 2 red. Ticking up to draw a card, discard a card at random. Kind of not a great thing, but for -4, dealing damage equal number of cards in target's player's hand, stat player, and -6, gaining control of all creatures on a turn, untapping them and giving them haste. Basically doing like an insurrection to all of the creatures. So he has some powerful abilities, but he kind of has this powerful downside. He's very cheap too. So it's kind of like this interesting drawbacks in the way that Tibalt worked, making him an interesting one to have here. So the storyline continued into this final bit of the story, and we continue with Savor the Flavor, of course, with 2 major stories, The Guardian, the Witch, and the Angel Rise and Demon's Release, and it's all about Avacyn, the angelic protector of Innistrad, the being that Soren Markov created to basically be like, hey, I understand now that I'm a planeswalker and I'm more evolved, that my existence as a vampire with my family and all the vampires, all the monsters we're creating as a result of this will just kill everybody. We need something to balance it out. Avacyn. Well, now, she was imprisoned in the Hell Vault in her battle against Griselbrand. Both her and Griselbrand are out, along with the various kinds of both of them. With Avacyn being back out, the angels that basically are powered by her existence come back into being. With Griselbrand and all the other demons that were encased in the Hell Vault being released, well, it's a battle is back on. So Avacyn's troops are rallying against the demonic threat, cleansing a lot of the infernal creatures. Basically, they had won before. They're not really united. It's a battle's back out there. It's a kind of like rebalancing of things. Even though there's still the darkness in Innistrad there's still the threats that are there. There's still zombies. There's still vampires. There's still ghosts and geists. There's still werewolves, kinda. But basically, things have evolved to something different. So, yeah. This image here is an image from something that's very interesting, which was we got a animated intro trailer to Avacyn Restored by Wizards of the Coast. That was both in English and Japanese on their YouTube channel. You can still go watch it now. The basically Avacyn Restored trailer. These are some of those interesting animated trailers that Magic has put out over the years. Go check out some of the other ones like War of the Spark, which is a very good one. But this is one of the earlier ones. Probably not the first one. I can't tell you what the first one is off the top of my head. I may have mentioned, may not have mentioned in these videos. Can't always remember. but it is one that's kind of in the earlier end of it, so it's interesting to talk about. So originally, the set was sold in 16-card booster packs. Hey, the 15 cards plus the bonus ones. The artwork on these cards was Avacyn, Angel of Hope, Grizzlebrand, Archangel, Reprint, Tybalt the Fiend-Blooded, and Galissa, Blade of Goldlight. We'll talk about all these in turn. There was 6-card boosters that were released still during this time, this one being a small one featuring art of Herald of War. There, of course, was 5 intro packs. We'll talk about them later on. 2 event decks, and, of course, a fat pack with its boxes, its roll-down dice, and all of its material that came with it. The promo rare cards that we got were on the various days. Of course, for the pre-release on April 28th to 29th of 2012, we got a pre-release special Moon Silver Spear. I'm trying to say the wrong thing there for a second. Whoops. So yes, we did get a release of this one. For the official launch party, we got Restoration Angel, which we will talk about also later on, and that was on May 6th, 4th, 6th of 2012. I will note in between here, Magic Online got its release on May 17th to 20th of 2012, so that was in between these 2 dates. As we get to Game Day and the 2 cards from Game Day, if you just were participating in Game Day, you got a full art Latch Seeker. This was, of course, on May 25th to 26th. And if you were a top 8 performer, you got a Killing Wave foil full art. Of course, the set did have a buy box promo in the form of Silverblade Paladin. Silverblade here, just to talk about here, is a Soulbound, which we'll talk about, that gives both creatures double strike. Just because I don't mention. A lot of these other ones I don't mention. Like, I don't mention Latchkey, but Latchkey is just unblockable 3. So. Anyway. The pre-release had something very interesting here. Had a limited number of what were Hellvault pre-release kits that were given out along with the standard kits that come with basically pre-releases. When players at a special Hellvault event got achievements, they could physically break open the store's own cardboard Hellvault, and once all the seals were broken, the store would open the Hellvault and all players would share the spoils within. These were kind of things like various actual Hellvault versions of a couple of cards. I'm showing basically Avacyn Restored edible tokens, which were like M&Ms, which were things that also kind of exist. And this was a point in time that the launch party name was being phased out. It was being called something else. I'm not exactly sure what it is at this point in time. There were 16th cards, of course, which I don't have a picture of the tips and tricks cards. I was unable to find one online. It's been interesting that it's been harder and harder to find the tips and tricks cards images online. I don't know what's about it, but there were 11 of these as the 16th card, along with possible tokens and emblems. We'll talk about those, and advertisements on the reverse side. So it's just, interesting to kind of talk about how I can mention this and not be able to show you an image of the tips and tricks. I was not able to find an Avacyn Restored version. But there's this nice advertisement kind of online thing for the pre-release. That was kind of interesting to see. Anyway, the tokens. There were 7 tokens and 1 emblem in this set. These include things like this 1/1 white spirit, or the 1/1 white human, that were created by a number of cards. And of course, the emblem that was there was the Tamio emblem that gives her 2 abilities if you manage to get it. Let's talk mechanics. And we'll start, of course, with Miracle. Miracle, which we kind of mentioned before, is an interesting keyword because basically is this: when you cast this card for its miracle cost, when you draw it, the first card you draw on a turn. Basically, it's your first card that you draw, you can miracle it. The only thing is, what you're supposed to do is, if it's my first card I draw and it's a miracle card, I'm supposed to reveal it and being like, hey, this is it. That's basically, when you draw it, you have to decide if you're going to cast it for its miracle cost. Because if you don't reveal it, you can't. If you do reveal it, you can. Remember, it's on your turn. Actually, I think you have to do it right away. I think you have to do it kind of right away. So it's a keyword. There's more details to the miracle and more rulings on it, and I'd still look into it if you want to use some miracle cards. There are some interesting ones we'll talk about in this one. But basically, it's the alternate cost. So it's basically similar to timing cost of cards with Madness. If you intend to cost it for its miracle cost, you must reveal it immediately, and costs are paid when the effect causing the draw is finished and the trigger ability to cast it resolves. So some are instant, some are sorceries, some are other kind of things. So basically, yes, you get it up there and you have to reveal it. The other new addition was an interesting ability called Soulbound. So this here is a Soulbound creature that, as long as Galvanic Aminus is paired with another creature, they both get 2 colorless and a blue untap this creature. And you may pair this creature with another unpaired creature when either enters the battlefield. They remain paired for as long as you control both. So if you lose one of them, if you lose the other one that the Galvanic Alchemist is paired with, then you can Soulbound it to a new creature. Basically, pairs up 2 creatures together, and they're connected together, conferring a special benefit as long as they're paired. These are Miracle and Soulbound were in all colors except black, so keep that in mind too. So other than the new mechanics, we did have the return of Undying, this being the Hound of Grizzleband, a 2/2 double strike that has Undying. Hey, double strike's pretty neat. So it's a 2/2 that hits twice, kills something big, and if it dies, it comes back as bigger. So this was kind of carried over from the previous expansions, Dark Ascension, and it's found primarily on black cards, but can be found in other places. Another kind of thing that was in the set was Loners. These were basically creatures or permanents that improve if their controller controls one of any creature, and it's kind of that thematic opposite of Soulbound. In this case here, we have Lone Revenant, that's a hex proof, that when it deals combat damage to player, if you can control no other creatures, you can look at the top 4 cards of your library, put one in your hand, the rest in the bottom of the library. So yeah, it gets a pretty good, powerful searching ability if you only have this one creature. Another big mechanic is we did see some minor sacrifice themes that existed here. So that's kind of another one that kind of balances out on the black side of things. There's still a sacrifice theme. This one, returning a creature card from a graveyard to your hand, and the target player sacrificing a creature. It's an expensive get back to your hand, but you also force an enemy to fit. We had a sub-theme of flickering actually being in this set, which was very interesting. Flicker being alluding to the namesake of an Urza's Destiny card, Flicker, which basically temporarily exiles a creature for a duration before returning it to the battlefield. It flickers it in or out. Nephilia Smuggler here, basically paying some mana, tapping it to exile a creature, and then returning it right away to the battlefield. So that's kind of very interesting that when you would flicker this one here, it can give a bonus like this. You know, basically enters the battlefield effects, leaves the battlefield effects, things like Soulbound. You can re-trigger a lot of stuff with it. That's the point of the flickering ability. And this was focusing on that kind of thing here a little bit, interestingly enough. So there were 3 major 4-card cycles, a vertical cycle, and of course we'll talk about the mega cycle here too. So there were no 5-card cycles in this set, which is very interesting here. The 4-card cycles, of course, were the legendary angels. Each of these were mythical angels that had a 2 white and a color cost, and there was a joke at the time that referred to them as Powerpuff Girls, and basically there were 2 of them that were a little bit more expensive, Avacyn and Sigra, but Glissa here was the one that was 2 white and a red, and she's a flying first strike 5/5 that a source would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent opponent controls. It deals double that damage to that player or permanent. And if a source would deal damage to you or permanent controls, it does half. This is a pretty powerful Boros creature, I'm not gonna lie, with halving the damage to you, doubling the damage to your enemies. You can see how Glissa could be pretty useful. Hey, great commander, maybe. The other 2 4-card cycles were miracle cycles. Remember, I said there were no black miracle cards, so of course there's only 3. The uncommon ones were, of course, just uncommon. Banishing Strike here, being the white one, would put target artifact, creature, or enchantment on the bottom of its owner's library. It's pretty expensive to put on the bottom of the library, but for miracle, it's 1, that's pretty good. And then, of course, we had the rare ones, in which we have Devastation Tide here. We're returning all non-land permanents to their owner's hands. A board wipe. The vertical cycle was, of course, creatures with Soulbound. Keep in mind also that other than creatures with Soulbound, these were green creatures. They were kind of below mana curve, kind of weak. This is a 4/4 that is for 5 mana. Kind of sucks in general. But Soulbounded. It's an 8/8 for 5 mana. Think about that. You already creature out, you give them +4/+4. You're getting a big power boost. So that's why there's a common and uncommon that do similar things to this. This one being the Wolfrin Silverheart, the werewolves that are under Avacyn kind of thing now that are existing. The Wolverine, it's storyline stuff, but we're talking about that. Let's talk the mega cycle of the Innistrad Block. So really, there were technically 2 mega cycles to talk about, sort of. I'm going to mention this one here because this is the one that actually has some cards in the entire thing, but I'll talk about the other one too. This is the 2-color utility lands. In Innistrad, there were 5 lands that had allied colored utility pairs. Dark Ascension includes 3 more. Avacyn Restored got the last 2. So now there are these lands that top for 1 colorless or for 2 mana and maybe an additional cost of 2 different colored manas, and tapping, we get them. This one here is the blue-green one that your non-land cards can have flash for a turn for a blue and a green. But yeah, we see here that there is all the colored pairs now throughout the Innistrad Block. You can tap for a colorless or tap 2 of the color, maybe some extra mana, and having an effect for all the mana cycles. The other mega cycle is there's a flashback spell between Innistrad and Dark Ascension of every color pair. If it costs you white to cast, it flashes back for white, flashes back for blue, black, red, green. Same for all the other colors. Whatever it costs to cast, it flashes back for a different color down the list. They have all 25 combined things across the first 2 sets. Very interesting though. So, yeah. Let's talk about pairs, because there are 4 pairs here. The Moonlight Geist and the Searchlight Geist. These are common flying 2/1 spirits that have a extra, basically, ability of 3 mana and 1. The Moonlight being preventing all combat damage dealt to and dealt by it. The Searchlight gaining Death Touch until end of turn. Them each costing 2 and 1. The second of the pairs were the Scroll of Avacyn, Scroll of Grizzlebane. These are common artifacts that can be sacrificed for you to cause you to draw a card, gain life if you have an angel, have an opponent discard the cards if they're a demon, respectively. So basically, the Avacyn one, you get life if you have an angel. If you have a demon for the Grizzlebane one, a target player, well, you draw a card, gain life. The demon one, opponent discards a card, they lose life, basically. We have these interesting rare ones, which I like both of these. These have big advantages. One when a creature dies, which is the Harvester of Souls. Another when a creature enters the field for the Soul of Harvest. I like both of these a lot. The Soul of Harvest is a Death Touch 5/5. Whenever a non-token creature dies, you may draw a card. If you are basically in a sacrifice deck, man, you card draw out of that. That can be pretty helpful. The Soul of the Harvest, on the other hand, is whenever a non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you draw a card. If you have both of them in a green-black deck, you can sacrifice a creature and put a creature back, resurrect it from the dead, kind of get a lot of card draw. It's a 6/6 trample. And I accidentally moved on to the next mirrored pair, the Triumph of Cruelty, Triumph of Ferocity, which is going on the battle between Liliana and Garruk. That was kind of culminating in this set. These are uncommon enchantments that create card advantage for the controller if you have the most powerful creature on the battlefield. And they are linked to the 2 combat between the 2 of them. The black one, Triumph of Cruelty, being linked to Liliana, where an opponent discards a card if you have the biggest creature, and the green one, Triumph of Ferocity, basically, if you have a creature with you rather than an opponent discarding a card, you draw a card if you have a creature with the biggest one, for marking the strength of Garruk there. There were some reprints. There were a bunch of reprints in this set. There were, in fact, 12 reprints. Demolish here, originally from Odyssey and last seen in Magic 2011, where destroying an artifact or land is just one of them. None of the ones are really big enough for me to kind of mention most of them, but if you want to look into the reprinted card system, there were some functional reprints, which there were a few that were actually pretty interesting. This one here, Builder's Blessing, which is basically Castle from the original one, where if you have untapped creatures you control get +0/+2, the Castle is technically a little worse, as it says attacking creatures lose this bonus. Where the Builder's Blessing, if you have creatures of Vigilance, they wouldn't lose it because they'd still be untapped. So, that's why it's a functional reprint. It isn't really a reprint. A lot of the other functional reprints are just creatures of different color, different name, kind of things like that are just a little bit different, But there are a few actual ones like this that are interesting functional reprints here. There are also some strictly better cards that do exist. A good example here would be Predator's Gambit and Unholy Strength. Unholy Strength being the original one, again, from Alpha and Beta. I'm showing the M11 one here, where creatures +2/+1. But the Predator's Gambit is not only did they get that, the enchanted creatures intimidate as long as it controls no other creatures. So that no other creature thing, give it that intimidate bonus. Interestingly enough. As long as you have no other creatures. Let's talk about some notable cards from this set. There's a number of interesting ones. Cavern of Souls. And when enters the battlefield, choose a creature type. You tap for 1 colorless or 1 mana if you choose cast a spell of that chosen creature. It's a big tribal thing that has pretty big tempo strategies in a lot of tribal decks this thing. The other big things was 4 powerful miracle cards. I'm going to talk about all of them, but in Treat of Angels here, let's just talk about them as a group here. They're powerful cards in Standard, they're powerful in Modern, and Legacy, and combined with a lot of other things. Hey, Legacy, or Modern, where you can use Brainstorm to make sure you cast this for its miracle cost. So they have been fairly played in a lot of these people, these 4 miracle cards. In Treat of Angels, as you can see it here, is put 4 XX white angel creature tokens onto the battlefield with flying. Oh, sorry. Hit the wrong button there. And for the miracle cost, and it's normally XX and 3 white, but the miracle is X and 2 white. That's pretty cheap for 4 white flying angel tokens. Temporal Mastery. Take an extra turn after this one. Exile it. Normally 7 mana. Its miracle cost 2. The same as a Time Walk. Granted, you do have to exile it, you do have to miracle it. But if you set that up, that's a powerful extra turn. Bonfire of the Dam. Normally XX red, where it does X damage to target player and all of their creatures. And if you miracle it, it's the same cost as a Fireball, or Disintegrate, or any of the X mana red spells. Incredibly powerful there, too. You have to miracle it, but you set it up. And of course, Terminus. This one a very interesting one, where you put all creatures on the bottom of their owner's library. Normally 6 mana, but for 1 mana, if you miracle it, you just wipe the board. And it goes on the bottom of their owner's libraries. You don't kill them. Meaning it gets through things that are immune to destruction. You can just wipe the board by putting everything on the bottom of the owner's library. A very interesting thing that way. Restoration Angel is a staple of white creature-based decks in Modern, because it can blink a creature instant speed and trigger an enter battlefield effect. It's flying, it's flash. You may exile target non-angel and return it. So it's got that blink ability, that flashing ability, in white at flash speed, at instant speed. It's very good in decks that can use that, take advantage of it. Blood Artist is a powerful card in aristocrat decks, where that plan to sacrifice their creature for value. Things like Modern Yawgmoth Deaths to create very powerful combo loops. When it or another creature dies, target player loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. You're planning on sacrificing creatures, Blood Artist is there to help you. Sigra, Host of Herons. Hey, another one of those angels in the block with Avacyn and the one we talked about, Galicia. Sigra here is a replacement for Baneslayer Angel for being very hard to kill. It's a flying hexproof, and spells or abilities your opponents control can't cause you to sacrifice permanents. Yeah. It's a flying hexproof. It shuts down things like Annihilator, other things that cause you to do sacrificing. It's hard to kill. The Vexing Devil. A 4/3 for 1 mana. It allows burn decks to win faster. Basically being like kind of a lava spike you throw out there. Because when it enters the battlefield, an opponent may have it deal 4 damage to them and cause you to sacrifice it. Oh man, for 1 mana you can take 4 damage, or I get a 4/3. Your choice. Appetite for Brains. Just a great zombie card. It's matched with the Inquisition of Kozilek from Rise of Eldrazi. They're uncommon cards that cause an opponent to discard a card. 1 one's with converted mana cost 3 or less. The other's converted mana cost 4 or greater. So they match well together. This one is a more expensive card, but your votes of revealing the hand, and you're getting rid of a more expensive card from it. For 1 mana, makes sense. Crater Hoof Behemoth. The 5/5 haste. When it enters the battlefield, creatures you control get +X/+X, where X is the number of creatures you control. If you're in a token deck and drop a Crater Hoof Behemoth, wow. It is 8 mana there. It is one of the most powerful green creatures ever printed. It's an instant win in so many creature decks, and green has ways of cheating creatures in. Remember that. Green cheats creatures in! And that's trample in +X/+X. Yeah. It's a big finish for elf decks in Legacy. Avacyn. Now, I am showing off her 2 different cards here because I wanted to. One of these, the one on the left is her version from the Hell Vault. One on the right is her normal one. They're mostly the same, but if you can probably check, like, the one from the Hell Vault edition basically has a little less borders, interestingly enough. The center's a little different. So interesting that they are technically a little different, the cards, between the 2 versions. Anyway, she's an 8 mana, 3 white mana, 5 colorless, flying vigilance, and her and other permanents you control are indestructible. And she's an 8/8. I mean, it does create all your things indestructible. It's a, you know, it's a pretty powerful ability that is kind of novel to make it her and all the rest of your things indestructible. Mist Hollow Griffin. This is an interesting one because it's the first creature you can cast from exile. A 3/3 flying, you may cast it from exile. Now, this does mean it has to be exiled during the course of your game. But I can combine this in something with, let's say, I don't know, something that requires a blue card or a creature to be, you know, exiled. Combine it with that. Oh, I exiled it. Now I can cast it. Making numerous infinite combos, we have Exquisite Blood. Oh, Exquisite Blood. You're one of 2 cards that we're going to talk about here that basically open the way for a lot of numerous infinite combos, especially in Commander. Exquisite Blood here is whenever an opponent loses life, you gain that much life. There's a card that allows you to, when you regain life, your opponent loses that much life. Hey, they're opposites. You infinite. The other one that's part of a lot of infinite combos which has been seen in Commander, of course, is Deadeye Navigate. A soulbound, as long as it's paired with another creature, both those creatures get a blue and a colorless. Exile the creature, return to the battlefield under control. Yeah. Think about that. You can do that phasing in and out, that flickering. And every time, whatever you soulbound that with something, you flicker it. It comes into play. You can flicker it again. If it does things like create mana and creates blue when it comes into play, well, maybe you just have infinite mana now. Maybe, again, it's part of combos. And you can see how this one basically having a lot of flicker ability, being very powerful. Zealous Conscripts. As a special threatened style effect that can gain control of any permanent, and it is very aggro in standard at the time. When it enters, you gain control of a target permanent, untap it, and give it haste. Permanent. You steal anything with the Zealous Conscripts. Ghostly Flicker, hey, basically has been in numerous Pauper decks that can utilize the Flicker ability to create value, including other Flicker spells and cards like Aeromancer. So exile 2 artifacts, creatures, or lands, and then return to the battlefield. This has been very powerful in Flicker-based combos in Pauper. Slayer's Stronghold. The other of the 2 of the Mega set, the cycle that I talked about from this set. I talked about the other one, but yes, this is part of that Mega cycle. This is the other pair of it, the white-red one, where target creature gets +2/+0 vigilance and haste until end of turn. Pretty big thing there. It's part of the Amulet Titan combo deck in Modern that can give the Titan haste immediately to get more mana. So you basically use this in combination with Primeval Titan. You get 4 lands as soon as it's out. There were a couple of bans/restrictions Again, another one from the Hell Vault series, the first one being the Hell Vault version of it, the other one being the normal one, Bristlebrand. The flying lifelink 7/7 that you have to pay 7 life to draw 7 cards for 8 mana, where you can probably cheat it out because it's a black card, where you can go throw it in your graveyard and get it out. I don't know. That doesn't seem like anything that would be banned, you know, or restricted. It's very powerful, especially if you can cheat into play. There's a lot of Reanimator decks in Legacy that have done that, and in Modern. His unique ability to draw cards combined with the powerful cards of the deck instantly won. He was banned in Commander in 2012 because he's uniquely powerful as a commander. Yeah. Turns out, when you have 40 life, spending 7 to draw 7 cards isn't so terrible as when you have 20. Yep. So, this dude, banned in Commander. Fascinating. The other big ban from this set was Primeval Surge. Exile top of your library. If it's a permanent, you put it in the battlefield. Repeat this. It does cost 10 mana, but yeah. It basically is not noteworthy, except it interacts particularly well with the rules of the unofficial Oathbreaker format, where the entirety of the deck can easily be constructed out of permanents, and it can be cast from your from the command zone to put the entire deck in the battlefield. So this is banned in the basically smaller, less-known Oathbreaker format. But other than that, you know, it's a very interesting ability. But it does have a ban somewhere in a format that people do play, so that's why I kind of want to talk about that there too. Let's talk about some other interesting and notable cards from this set. Whee! I love this section here. Angel Jubilation, a 3/3 flying that other non-black creatures you control get +1/+1, and players can't pay life or sacrifice creatures to cast or act spells or activate abilities. It's the anti-sacrifice, pay life deck kind of thing. Yep. 4 mana, creates a lot of white. Archwing Dragon, kind of interesting, a 4/4 flying haste for 4 mana. At your end step, goes back to your hand. It's one of those haste ones that blinks back your hand. We've seen other haste things that you throw out there to hit damage. Other ones that do return your hand. Martyr and Blood, of course, each player sacrifices 2 creatures for 4 mana. If you have tokens or things that you want to sacrifice, great. If your opponents have things they don't want to sacrifice, great. If you have a Grave Pact, so now you have to sacrifice 2 things, and they have to sacrifice 4 things, even better. Bower Passage. This is an interesting one because creatures with flying can't block creatures you control. Doesn't matter if your creatures have flying, doesn't matter if they don't have flying, you shut down flying things from blocking you. It's interesting. It's an enchantment for 2 mana that does this. It's just a fascinating spell that just, like, screw you flying creatures and your flying deck. Bruna, Light of Alabaster. We're talking about the 4th of that cycle here. The blue one, the white, blue. The Flying Vigilance 5/5. Whenever it attacks or blocks, you may attach any number of auras on the battlefield, and may put any number of, and put on the battlefield attached to it any number of aura cards that could enchant it from your graveyard or hand. So basically, when your attacks or blocks, you basically take any number of auras on the battlefield, and any number of auras that could enchant it from your graveyard and hand, and put it onto it. Basically, you steal and put onto play all the auras on it. It's a very powerful enchant creature in a lot of ways. Burn at the Stake. You have to tap a number of creatures that are untapped that you control. It's a 5 mana spell, in addition to its cost. And then however many creatures you tap, deal 3 times that number of creatures you tapped in damage to target creature or player. 5, 10 creatures. Let's say I have 7 creatures. I tap 7 of them with Burn at the Stake. I do 21 damage to a target. My enemy. Hey, a red token deck where I have 5 mana. Bye-bye. Captain of the Mists. When another human enters the battlefield under your control, untap Captain of the Mists. For a blue, a white, and tap it, tap or untap target permanent. Man, there's combos with this. He can untap when another human enters. You can untap or untap things to do stuff. There are things you can do. Very interesting there. Conjurer's Closet. an artifact for 5 mana that basically does the flicker effect. At the beginning of your end step, you flicker something. This is one of those things because it's an artifact and not colored. It can be good in a lot of decks, but it's adding more of that flicker effect. But this is particularly at your end step that you flicker. Dark Imposter, a vampire assassin that can exile a creature and put a +1/+1 counter on itself, and then steals the active abilities of all cards it exiles. It is expensive, it's 6 mana to exile a creature, but doesn't have to tap. So if you have a lot of mana, you get rid of something, it gets bigger, and then you steal activated abilities of whatever you exile. Dark Imposter can be pretty useful there. The Dread Slaver, where it's a creature dealt damage by that dies, you get it back to the battlefield under your control. That's a zombie now, in addition to its other colors and types. A black zombie. So whatever colors and types it was, it's those, but also a black zombie. Basically, if you can boost up Dread Slaver, maybe give it Death Touch, kill a bunch of things, you get them. Dual casting, an aura, enchant creature that gives a creature 1 red, tap it, copy an instant sorcery you control, get new copies of it. It's another one of those copy abilities that copies instant sorceries in red. I like this one. If you want to be casting like copies of a lot of spells, hey, dual casting one of your creatures. You may get a copy creature. Gold Knight Redeemer. When it enters the battlefield, gain 2 life for each creature you control. 4/4. Hey, if you're playing a token white deck, a lot of life. Infinite Reflection. This one's an interesting one. It's an enchant creature. When it enters the battlefield, attached to a creature. Each other non-token creature you control becomes a copy of that creature. Non-token creatures you control enter the battlefield as a copy of enchanted creature. Now, this is non-token. But if I have, say, like a really big, nasty creature that I want to make, like, let's say, like a big 10/10 Eldrazi, not legendary. I put Infinite Reflections on it. Now all my, like, small creatures that I put in the battlefield are 10/10 Eldrazi with Annihilator 3. Can have its uses. An interesting one. Getting a lot of copies of things. Killing Wave. Hey, remember we talked about this was a promo for the game day if you won a lot? X black. For each creature, its controller sacrifices it unless he or she pays X life. Now, granted, it hits your own things, but if you don't care about getting rid of all your creatures, you can just board wipe stuff. And maybe you have ways of getting your creatures back. And your opponents, if they want to keep something, have to pay life. Oh, I cast this for like 6. You have to pay 6 life or sacrifice all your creatures. Oh, I'm sorry. 6 life for each you want to keep. I, on the other hand, have mana open, or a way to get creatures back. I'm going to do it. Or maybe when I sacrifice something, I get something back. Lightning Prowess. You give something haste, and make it a Timmy. Taps deal 1 damage target creature or player. Basically, the red when we move Timmys from blue to red, you know, when they tap deal damage to a target. Malaningus. This is a really weird one here. It's a star creature for 5 mana. And damage that would be dealt by it can't be prevented. So keep that in mind. That's very interesting. Its damage can't be prevented. And its power and toughness are each equal to half the highest life total among your opponents, rounded up. In a commander game, where you play it right away, it would be a 20/20, because your opponent's highest life total would be 40 to start out with. Granted, if your opponents start dying, it gets smaller, and its damage can't be prevented. It's interesting. One of the other promos, the Moon Silver Spear. It's a 4 mana equipment, costs 4 to equip, kind of expensive, gives a creature first strike. The big ability of it is when an equipped creature attacks, you put a 4/4 white angel with flying in the battlefield. Yes, you attack with your first strike creature, you get an angel. Stolen Goods. Exile from the target opponent, exiles cards from his or her library until they exile a non-land card, and then you may cast it without paying its mana cost this turn. Basically, you have them exile cards from their library, whatever it is, you can cast them for free. You steal some goods. Unwalden Tracker. For 2 green and tapping it, target creature you control fights another target creature. Yeah, it's a 1 mana, 1/1 that just has you fight things. It can be helpful if you want to use, if you have big creatures and want to smash your opponent's smaller creatures with having them fight, sure. Or maybe you want to have your things fight each other to kill something or something like that. And I do like this one, Vessel to Endless Rest, because you can flicker it. Hey, think about that. When it enters the battlefield, put target card from a graveyard at the bottom of its owner's library. It can be your own, It can be an opponent's. You can shut down an opponent's graveyard deck by putting them back on the bottom of their library. It can put things back in your library, especially if you can search your library. And it taps for mana. It's an artifact that taps for mana. Meaning if you flicker it, you can tap for more mana. Because it doesn't have summoning sickness. Let's talk about the intro packs. Woo! We've reached the intro packs. Everybody loves a good intro pack, you know? So, there were, count them, 5 intro packs. The first one here is our green-white one called Angelic Might. It focuses all on angels. It's an angel deck. It's green-white. Now, the 2 rares that were in here were, of course, Herald of War and Angel of Glory's Rise. Herald of War is one I really do like. It's a 5 mana, 3/3 flying. Whenever it attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Cool. It gets bigger. But the big thing about it is angel spells and human spells you cast cost 1 less for each +1/+1 counter on it, 1 colorless less. So that means in a human/angel deck, having Herald of War is ramped. Angel of Glory's Rise then is a 4/6 that when it enters, exile all zombies and return all human cards from your graveyard battlefield. It's a 7, basically get all your humans back if you're playing a human deck. It can be pretty good too. It's not necessarily bad. The second of the intro packs was Bound by Strength, a blue-green deck that focuses on Soulbound. It's our Soulbound deck. The 2 rares, of course, here are Wolfrin Silverheart, which we talked about, the 4/4 that gets 4/4 of its Soulbound, and of course Deadeye Navigator, which we also talked about. So yeah, they're pretty good Soulbound cards. Of course, they're in here. Turns out, you know, when you're a good Soulbound card, you're in the Soulbound deck. It also has an overrun in there too. So I mean, you know, it's got some good things that make the deck pretty decent. All right, there's a red-white deck that focuses on cheap aggression. Oh, the first deck was called Angelic Might, then Bound by Strength. This one is Fiery Dawn. This is basically aggro deck. It's cheap creatures, aggro. You're throwing out creatures. You're smacking them hard and fast. That's the part of the deck. It's a swarm red-white deck. It's very Boros focused, like traditional Boros when we're talking about the actual guild in Ravnica. So it fits on that kind of entire thing there too. The 2 rares there, of course, are, hey, that good old Zealous Conscript shows up again. That's we talked about that one. But the other one that I do want to talk about is Cathar's Crusade, which is a pretty good one, honestly. Because whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. More creatures you get out, the bigger your creatures get. Think about that. In a token deck, sure, you're putting out a lot of little tokens. But maybe put like a tree of angels in here, where you get a bunch of angels. Other ways of getting a lot of tokens, where it just makes your creatures bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. I'll have to keep track of a lot of stuff, but yeah. More creatures, the bigger. Cathar's Crusade is pretty good that way. Our red-black deck is Slaughterhouse. It's killing creatures. It's undying. It's an aggressive, undying, killing creatures deck. It's just supposed to murder things. It's got things like Fling in there, too, on Hallowed Pact, and a lot of interesting cards there. Harvester of Souls in there. A non-token creature controls dies, you get a card. I love Harvester of Souls. And, of course, the Demon Lord of Azeroth, where you're sacrificing creatures and it comes back. So again, it's a very aggressive black-red deck. Makes sense there. Our last one is a Loner's theme deck. A black-blue deck called Solitary Themes. Basically, you want to have one creature out at a time, you get stuff for it. Our 2 big things here, are, of course, are the Lone Revenant, which I talked about. Hey! And the other one being an enchantment, which is Demonic Rising. At the beginning of your end step, if you control exactly one creature, you get a 5/5 black demon token. And it puts you a second creature, but a flying 5/5 black demon every time you just have one, especially if something to sacrifice something. Man, there's some pretty good, interesting ways you can combine with there to improve that even more. Let's talk about the 2 event decks. The first one was Desencroach, a black deck focused on zombies. Yeah, it's a zombie deck. A pure black zombie deck. As with most of these ones here, they had basically 7 rares in them. I'll talk about all the rares here, but it had Cemetery Reaper, Girl's Messenger, Gloom Surging, Gravecaller, Lash Wraith, 2 of them actually, the 2 of the Lash Wraiths, and Surgical Extraction. Most of these are, of course, from other older sets here. Cemetery Reaper from M12, getting boosted zombies, exiling cards for that. Gareth's Messenger from the previous set, Dark Ascension, where it has Undying and gives Bluffs of Life. The big one from this set was Gloom Surgeon. When if damage be dealt to it, prevent that damage, exile that common cards from the top of your library. So it's a 2-1 that is really hard to kill that way. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Gloom Surgeon. And then, of course, you've got Gravecaller and the 2 from New Phyrexia there, which can be pretty helpful, too. So an interesting little start of a zombie deck. Not the best zombie deck in the world, but for at what would have been considered standard at the time, a very interesting one. And there's a lot of stuff within standard that you can probably add to this one to improve it and remove a few things. It's a good basis for a zombie deck, I'd say, at the time. But definitely needs some improvement. The other one was Humanity's Vengeance, a blue-white deck that basically has synergy between various cards in the deck. Cheap creatures and combos in there, and it does have some soulbound abilities within it, too. For our 7 rares, of course, we had 2 of the Glacial Fortresses, and then 1 of all the other ones. Moorland Haunt, Blade Splicer, Mirroring Crusader, Phyrexian Metaphors, Divine Deference. The Glacial Fortress being a very simple one. If you have an island or plains, doesn't come into battlefield tap. The Moorland Haunt being from, of course, the Innistrad set, where exile card from your graveyard to get a spirit. The Blade Splicer from New Phyrexia, giving you a Golem and giving Golem's first strike. The Mirroring Crusader, a double strike protection for green and black. The Phyrexian Metamorph, basically exiling things and getting a copy of it. And the big one from this set, the Divine Deflection, where you prevent X damage, an X white spell. And the damage that you develop to the creature or you, and then do that much damage to a creature or player. So you prevent damage and redirect it, basically. But there you go. That one was a pretty decent event deck, too, but definitely could use some work. Interesting start points. The event decks always are very interesting start points. There's Avacyn Restored. I hope you enjoyed diving into it and learning all about it with me. It's a fascinating set that basically does change a lot of themes that existed within the block up till then. It does fit within Innistrad Block in a lot of ways. It's still the man versus monster. Maybe it fits more with the original Innistrad, as Dark Ascension with this kind of like dark path, and they're coming back into light. Now we have angels and demons battling out with humans there, and still the vampires and zombies and other things that are still there. But it's kind of different. It's kind of thematically a lot of different. It's not the same kind of horror tropes. It's a new story in a lot of ways. Same story, but new story. It's an evolved story. It's an evolving of the Innistrad Block. And thematically, it still fits within it. It still fits within the story. It's an interesting story that's told through the cards and the mechanics of the set in a lot of ways. And I think that's the big thing about it. There's a miracle going on. People are bounding together more. Still, the darkness is there. It's not gone. There's still demons about. Undying creatures that have not been removed. It's still a dangerous world. But maybe there's a little hope, a little difference, a little change. That is the story that's being told throughout the block. And this is a culmination of that story that is good. In the darkest day, hope returns, and a new Innistrad is born out of it. One that is similar to the old one, but one that has gone through its darkest periods, where the Hell Vault, which was supposed to imprison a lot of the more powerful demons and stuff, is now shattered. No longer do they have that prison. Now the war must be fought. Now it is a different. That is fascinating story. I hope you enjoyed learning all about its cards, story, and everything about it. But that's it for today. Thank you all for diving in here, joining with me. I'm going to adjust this a little bit here. Check out more of my stuff, whether it's live on YouTube or live on Twitch or over on YouTube. When you're live on Twitch with me, I do recordings like this. I do live plays of TTRPGs like Fall of Amswell Wednesdays at 8. I do talking shows and things like that, like Discussing Tabletop Saturdays at 6. I also do other gaming with friends on my own, chatting, all that kind of stuff. All the tabletop stuff is what gets uploaded on YouTube. I don't have a VODs channel yet, probably have one eventually, but for now, just a YouTube channel, Dracovin Empire. Head over there, check out all the tabletop stuff if you can't join me live. That's all my recordings like this one, my live plays, even older live plays that are up there, all the Discussing Tabletop. Please check those out. Make sure you subscribe over the YouTube side of things. That's the big way to support your channel, no matter where you're at. And of course, let me know, have you played Avacyn Restored? Have you played with any of these cards and any of the reprints of them? What do you think about all this? Check out my social media link below. Until the next time, hang out. Talk about the history of Magic, brings cards on it, other things related to tabletop world. I bid all of you out there a deep and wonderful farewell.